What is up, YouTube? It's Tom from Tech Time. Here at Tech Time, we bring you all your tech all the time. So if that's something that interests you, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with our weekly content. Today, I'm bringing you my LG G7 ThinQ review. I've had this since May when it was released, and I've been using it pretty much as my daily driver ever since. So this is a real true review from somebody who's actually used the phone, not somebody who's used it for a week and returned it, or got it given to them by LG and used it for a couple days and spit out some bullshit review and it tells you, what you want to hear and what the specs are and things like that. I've actually used this phone. I've dealt with the problems. I've pushed through it. And overall, it's been a mixed feeling on this LG G7. Last year, the LG V30, I was not impressed. I had a lot of issues with it, and I was really hoping for big things for the G7 because they said they're going back to the drawing board and they were kind of recreating their whole branding and everything. And they were even possibly thinking about getting rid of the G series and combining some of their products. And overall, I don't think that they actually did much of what they said in terms of branding and marketing and things like that. I think they just kind of said they were going back to the drawing board to give themselves some more time so that they could buy some time to be able to get a hold of the Snapdragon 845 processor and not kind of do themselves like they did themselves with the LG G6 and come out with the outdated processor. So that's my opinion on it. The phone itself is a 6.1-inch LCD IPS display, resolution of 1440 by 3120. It's a 19 by 5:9 aspect ratio, so it's kind of a weird aspect ratio, nearly bezel-less. You do have a notch at the top, you got a chin on the bottom, but overall, really nice looking phone. Back, all glass, Corning Gorilla Glass 5. You got your LG G7 ThinQ branding there. Down the bottom, LG, and then you have your IMEI number. You have your fingerprint sensor on the back that does not double as a home button anymore. You have your dual camera setup, your flash. Right over here, you have your power button. Over here, you have your volume rockers and your Google Assistant button. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the placement of these buttons just because now when I put anything on a tripod, I always hit the Google Assistant button and it brings up Google Assistant, which can sometimes be a pain in the ass. So, in terms of the phone, the specs, the hardware, like I said, you have the beautiful 6.1-inch LCD display. Really, really nice. You have a Snapdragon 845. You have 64 gigabytes of onboard storage with 4 gigabytes of RAM, and then you have a micro SD card slot and a SIM card all joined in together in one little slot. On the rear, you have a dual 16 megapixel camera. You have an f1.6 main shooter, and then you have an ultra wide f1.9. On the front, you have a all new 8 megapixel camera with an f1.9 aperture. And, really nice hardware all around. This is IP68 water and dust resistance. And then you also get the mil standard 810G compliancy. I call it kind of bullshit on that because it is a glass phone. So I don't understand how it can go through all those tests and pass with that standard. So to me, I don't really hold much weight with that standard anymore. It'd be different if this was an aluminum phone or something like that, but it's not. You have an aluminum frame with glass and glass. It's a little bit hollow inside because you have a speaker. The boombox speaker is what they call it, and this is a resonant chamber. But overall, in terms of hardware, it's a really nice phone. Feels really good in the hand. I actually really enjoy the size of this phone. To me, it's a really nice phone size. It's not too small. It's not too big. Down on the bottom, you have that single speaker grill. And you can actually tell the speaker grills are pretty big. And USB Type-C microphone, and then a headphone jack. I don't know if you guys know what one of those is. Right there, it's a headphone jack. And this one actually has a quad DAC built in. It's almost something like a relic nowadays to find a headphone jack on a phone. But LG kind of, pushes their branding around the quad DAC in this phone. It's one of the few phones that has a headphone jack, and then it's one of the very few phones that has a quad DAC built in. So you can get great speaker sound, headphones with wired headphones, or if you're plugging it into your car or anything else, maybe like a home stereo system, you have that, and it also pushes out unbelievable sound, hi-fi audio with the quad DAC. Me, I'm not an audiophile, so that feature is great, and I do use it. I enjoy having the headphone jack. I do see the differences in it over other headphone jacks, but I'm not pushing, really crazy headphones because I'm just not an audiophile. I love music. I love great sounding stuff, and this does push it out, but I'm not somebody that has $500, $600, $700 headphones to push with this to really get the true performance out of it. But with the headphones that I do use, it does make a difference, and actually a huge difference over the other headphone jacks on other smartphones. And like I said, those are very rare to even find a headphone jack nowadays. Few manufacturers are even doing that. So getting into the display, like I mentioned, it's a 6.1-inch LCD display. It is Quad HD, and this is a RGB with a white subpixel display. So it's doing something a little different. You get really clean whites, and it also allows it to be brighter. There is a super bright mode. You click right there, and it boosts it. You see it right there. Boom. To me, it is a bright LCD screen. I do think that the AMOLED on Samsung phones do get brighter in sunlight, or they're just easier to read. I don't know if it's actually getting more nits of brightness, or it's just easier to read. To me, it just seems brighter or easy to read, like I said, in direct sunlight. But this still does compete with most phones in that department. It really pushes out a great display. Colors are nice, they're vibrant. The screen has like depth to it. Saturation is nice. It's not a muted screen like you would find on like, this right here, the Google Pixel 2. Look at the two different, displays. This one may seem brighter because of the background, but it really isn't. The colors just are so much nicer on the LG G7. So the screen is, really, really incredible on the LG G7. They've done a great job, and, there really wasn't any issues with mine at all. Some other people reported light bleed down the bottom. I don't know if you can tell, but I don't have any light bleed on mine. It's worked great. No issues, no quality control issues in that aspect of it. So it's worked out great. You have HDR10 compliancy, and then you have an always-on display. So you have any feature that you really need with this display, it does it all. Getting into software, this runs LG's UI, their skin on top of it, and this is where I've seen to have most of my problems with this LG phone. I've had issues with, connectivity in the beginning. I had issues with, terrible lag. The phone started out as one of the fastest phones out of the box, and it really did a great job blowing through everything that I needed it to. And then it started really lagging, force closing so many things. And I thought maybe it was some apps. So I, factory reset it, started from fresh. And obviously I have a lot of apps on it, but I didn't think I would have any issues, with the specs that are in here, because I've used other phones like the Samsung Galaxy S9 with the same specs, and phones with older specs that have run better than this. Now, I'm on my third factory reset, and right now the phone's been running, it's been running pretty good. I can say that. Overall, it's been solid, but there hasn't been any software updates really. My last security update was July, I think. Let's go check that right now. And that's a big issue. They don't push out any support for this thing. Update center, software update. Security patch, July 1st. You run an Android version 8.0. And, to me, that's pretty unacceptable. You should at least, we're in October now, you should at least be on the September security patch, but you're not. You're still running July, so you've missed a few months of security patches. Little tiny software updates could make this phone a lot better because it has a lot of potential, but the software it's just been laggy overall. Right now it's been pretty good, but I do have a lot of forced closes between Instagram, but that could be Instagram, and I've had some issues with YouTube where it stops playing a lot and it just kind of like force pauses itself a lot. I don't know exactly if that's an app issue, but I don't have it on my other phones. I do have some Instagram problems on some of my other Android phones, so that could just be an Android thing. Who knows? But like I said, I have had a lot of lag on this, and it's kind of been disappointing. But that could be because I use a lot of apps on the phone. Everybody's mileage is going to vary. But yeah, like I said, I've used phones with similar specs, and they are able to handle all the apps that I use. And it's been unfortunate that this one hasn't, because it's kind of deterred from the fun uses of the phone. I just wish it ran a little smoother. I wish maybe they dumbed down their software, because on their software you get everything. They're kind of like a Samsung. They really push out everything but the kitchen sink at you. You have a slew of settings, network settings, a whole bunch, sound settings, everything you can think of, display settings, there's app scaling. You can change the screen color, add vibrancy, cinema, sports mode, change the temperature of the screen, comfort mode, change the resolution. There's so much stuff you can do in the settings, and I enjoy that. And I appreciate them putting out all of those settings and having so much baked into the software, but the optimization of it all just, it's not the best. I've had lag, and it's unfortunate. Other software things you get in this is you get Google Assistant built in like any other phone, but you have a button for this one. To me, it's just a tick behind. See how quick that comes up? Hold the button. And now that was the second time doing it. Let's clear all the apps. Most of the time it takes a second to do it. Like if I'm going to, I can normally just do a voice like that. I have a swipe up feature that I use on Nova Launcher, and I am using Nova Launcher. I'm not using the LG launcher on this, and that's just so much faster for me. And even just holding it like that or calling it up, the button just lags a lot. Right here, maybe it's not lagging the most, but if I have a bunch of apps open or in the middle of doing something, that button lags a lot. So I rarely find myself using the Google Assistant button, and it has kind of gotten in my way. When I hook this phone up on tripods and stuff, I'm always clicking the button with the, the little clip that clips on. It's always hitting this button, so I got to offset it. Then I got to move the tripod. So me personally, wish the button wasn't there. But I am happy that they didn't put their own LG, assistant on here. With the Lg G7 ThinQ branding, I thought there was going to be some kind of AI or something from LG. And other than the camera, there's really no other ThinQ, AI built into the phone that I can see that I've used or anything like that. Some of the other software features is, if you remember the old phones, the old V-series phones, they had the second screen. So now this one, they use a floating bar like they did on the V30. I don't like it. I've been trying to use it just for screenshots. I use it mostly for, but other than that, it's not a huge thing for me. It kind of gets in the way sometimes. I go to hit an app and I'll hit this button and then it's open. So things like that can kind of piss me off. But overall, it is what it is. Software is either going to love it or you're going to hate it. And I don't mind LG software and their settings. I think there's some actually pretty important things that they add in, but the lag is an issue. So they need to optimize it better. And I'm really hoping that the V40 brings way better optimization or a toned back skin, one or the other. Hopefully they can figure it out. The next feature I want to get into is the camera. The camera on this phone is really one of the big selling points that they market it as. You have a triple camera setup. You have dual cameras on the rear and a single camera on the front. You have on the back dual 16 megapixel cameras. You have a 16 megapixel f1.6 aperture main lens, and then an f1.9 aperture 16 megapixel ultra wide. Now, the rear cameras are a hit or a miss in my opinion, and I don't think it's because of hardware. I think it's because of software. So you take it, you point it, and sometimes it just overexposes it. Right there's a little overexposed, not too bad, but it just hesitates to focus. It takes a while. It just sometimes it second guesses itself, and it's really unfortunate because, like I said, I think the hardware is there. I just think the software needs some help. Inside, you get a bunch of features. You get manual video, cine video, food, slow motion, panorama, flash jump cut, AR stickers, and time lapse. AR stickers are like little things you can point the phone at. They'll set up like a little base, and you can see these little AR characters in your real world. It's a pretty cool little thing, similar to what the Google Pixel is doing. It's actually the same little options. Let's get into the manual modes though. LG has some of the best manual modes on a smartphone. You get your shutter, your ISO, your focus, which you can do focus peaking. You get a histogram, your white balance, and really just great. Shows you if you're level or not, if you're off. Really a great setting. Manual video, same thing. You get focus, white balance, hi-fi, audio recording. you get autofocus, you get ISO, your shutter speed, everything that you need for manual settings. And they do have the best probably manual settings that you can get on a smartphone. They really do. And the hardware, that's how I know that the cameras aren't hardware, because in the manual mode you can get unbelievable photos, and it's just the auto mode that sometimes can be hit or miss. Sometimes it doesn't pick up focus, or it takes too long, and then you get some type of motion blur. Or I've been getting issues in auto mode where it kind of like draws in too much light and almost looks like it's cloudy. I posted some pictures on my Instagram comparing it to other cameras from other smartphones, and a lot of people were, pretty blown away sometimes. Some of the pictures, the LG just can't get it right depending on the lighting. And like I said, I think it's just software. In this year's camera, you get an AI cam, which is like a software filter. It kind of recognizes it and it will add filters. Pretty much just boosts the saturation. And to me, not a big fan of it. You get portrait mode. See if we can get it to take a picture in portrait mode. I don't know if we got it. Let's see. No, it didn't take it because it was too close, but I won't be able to get it on camera otherwise. And then you have Google Lens. Google Lens is pretty cool. It can do some really cool stuff. You get up here, color filters, and overall you get pretty much all the, stuff that you expect. You get super bright mode. You can put that on manual. That's going to brighten everything up when it's too dark, and it's kind of hit or miss. It takes artificial light and kind of gives it a green tint a lot of the times. So I don't use it that often. You get HDR, auto on and off. And HDR, I think it's probably, it uses HDR less than some other smartphones, high dynamic range mode. But when it does work, it works pretty good. You get steady recording you can turn on. You get live photos, which is similar to like, live photos, like motion photos on iPhone. We get a little, whatever, it takes like a couple second clip of video. You get video shutter where you can talk, you can tag your locations, you can put a grid, you can add a signature. Then down here you get full vision if you want it. That's going to lower the resolution though. Turn that off. You get your 60 megapixel 4:3 aspect ratio. You get 4K 30 frames per second, full HD 1080p at 18:9 aspect ratio, or a 16:9 aspect ratio with 60 frames per second, and then you get 720p. I don't think anybody's using that. What you don't get though is 4K at 60 frames, and it's unfortunate because the hardware can handle it, the processor can handle it. Other phones at this price range have 4K 60 frames per second, so it's pretty unfortunate that LG didn't provide it fresh out of the box. There is an option for it in an update, but it hasn't pushed out yet. So, that's a problem to me. That goes along with LG's software update issues. This is running, July security patch, which is pretty crazy. I think they should have pushed out some updates by now, fix the camera, fix some of the little glitches there, and then give you the 4K 60 frames per second. Some people have stated that they have it. If you have it and you're in the United States on a carrier, let me know which carrier you have and that you have 4K 60 frames per second. I do not have it. This is a T-Mobile variant, so maybe it's T-Mobile that's not pushing out the update, but to me, I feel that it's LG because I've gotten plenty of updates from other phones over T-Mobile. So I don't think it's T-Mobile. I think it's LG pushing it out and not pushing it out, should I say. The front-facing camera, 8 megapixel, square in the middle, and I do enjoy that. It's a really good front-facing camera. Shoots video 1080p, 30 frames per second, 8 megapixel this year. Definitely much improved from LG cameras of last year and the year before. On the front-facing camera, it was really trash. The rear cameras, they shoot really good video. I think that there's better options out there for video, but that's just my opinion. You guys make your own opinion and let me know if you have the phone, but I think that there's better options for video. Stabilization, everything's pretty solid. I just think that there's better options. I like the color reproduction on some of the other smartphones out there more than I do on this one. I think with software though, a couple fixes. Overall, the camera would be, really, really good on this, much better, especially in auto mode. that has issues. You know, they've had issues on the V30 with auto mode with the camera app being slow and the shutter not always, you know, picking focus the way it should and kind of lagging, getting motion blur. And that's something that, you know, has bothered me since the V30, and it's still here on the G7. Unfortunately, a software update could fix it, but, you know, I don't expect it to happen anytime soon. It's unfortunate. Overall, though, the cameras are solid, and you can get great photos and videos out of it. Moving on to battery, this is a 3,000 milliamp hour battery, and it gets decent battery life. I get a full work day and still have, you know, maybe 20% when I come home. I get anywhere from 3.5 to 4.5 hours of screen on time. It was getting better when I first got the phone. Obviously, with more usage, the battery, you know, kind of dies off a little bit. And right now I average 3.5 to 4.5 hours of screen on time, but screen on time isn't the tell-all. You know, there's a lot of other things that go into it. So, you know, it's going to vary by everybody's usage. But overall battery life has been pretty good. You know, big 6.1 inch screen. Overall, it's been decent. It's done what it has to do, and it gets me through a day of work, which is really all I can ask for in a smartphone this day and age. It's on par with other phones. Some get a little bit better, some get a little less. So it's right there, run of the mill for a 3,000 milliamp hour battery at this screen size. Not going to win any awards though, that's for sure. So overall, guys, what do I think of the G7? I've had it for so long. It's been a love-hate relationship with this phone. It's really, really promising. It is. It has a lot of great features, beautiful screen, great cameras. The boombox speaker on the bottom is really incredible. You know, it's so loud. You put it down on something, it echoes, and it just gives a great sound. I just wish it had a second speaker up here in the earpiece, because with that, it would really push this over the edge, because most of the time I don't have my phone down on something. I have it like this, watching content, and you can block this sometimes, you know, depending on how you're holding it. And if you had a front-facing speaker, it would just be really nice. It would complement it so well, and this would be hands down my favorite speaker system. But right now, because of not having the front-facing firing speaker, it's not my favorite. It's definitely the loudest, but I prefer something with a dual speaker system to that. But, you know, overall, guys, the phone is really, really nice. It has great features. Its build quality is solid. It hasn't scratched up much at all. It does show fingerprints. The gray model doesn't show them as much as the purple model, but they do. It's glass. You know, I slap a case on it. I have a bunch of case reviews. Check my LG G7 playlist if you're looking for any cases. Price point on this thing right now is anywhere from $300 to $550. You can get them on Swappa, eBay, Craigslist, really anywhere. Even some of the carrier deals are pushing them out upwards like $550. So you can get it at a good price, way better than what it was when it first released. And like I said, look on Swapper and eBay. There's a ton of them going real cheap. So at that price point, it's definitely worth it. If you like LG, you'll like this. Like I said, there are some quirks with the software and things like that. I don't like the lag. It might vary. I've talked to other people that say they have no lag. Some people have had lag. So it really varies, you know. LG's quality control's not the best, especially as of late. They've had a lot of issues with quality control. So, you know, that could be a quality control thing. Who knows? You know, but I don't think you should have to factory reset a phone 3 times in, you know, a few months. To me, it's not a great thing. If they kept on with some software updates, they could definitely make this phone much better and really make it a contender for one of the top phones. But without those software updates and bug fixes, it's definitely not a top phone right now. The LG V40 will be dropping, so maybe you'll see some updates to the G7. I would hold off and see what happens with that before you go out and purchase one. There will be a link down in the description to Amazon if you're interested in looking at it. That will give you Amazon's latest price. So it's definitely worth a check out. Anyways, guys, that is it for the G7 review. Hope you enjoyed it. It's a long review, but I had a lot to say because I actually used the phone. Till next time, guys, I'll catch you later. Peace.